He's interviewed some of the biggest names. I'm Trent Croce with Jaden Jefferson, and I got to know more about the 14-year-old journalist who's making a name for himself all over.
When roads ice over, rock salt is a lifesaver. But I'm Tiara Medley with why it might be doing just as much harm as it is good.
Faculty from the University of Toledo held a community discussion to answer questions about the Ukrainian crisis. More on the event coming up.
Your news in 10 minutes starts now. It has now been a week since Russian forces invaded Ukraine, and with the devastating events impacting the world, members within our own community wanted to know more.
That's why two U-Toledo professors hosted a public forum Wednesday night, March 2nd, to answer questions about the ongoing crisis. I was able to attend the event and see just what the speakers and the audience had to say. It was a night of questions, answers, and discussions Wednesday at the Toledo-Lucas County Main Library, where two U-Toledo professors, Dr. Joel Voss and Dr. Barry Jockish, were there to speak more on the events happening in Ukraine and Eastern Europe.
A number of my colleagues and I decided it would be a good idea to try to put some kind of community event together.
The event started with the two speakers discussing their analysis on the invasion. Then they turned it over to a discussion with the audience. One member in it, a student himself.
I want to know more about the future implications of what this will have on the world.
And some members had a lot to ask, from the weapons.
What effect is that going to have on nuclear proliferation?
About the younger generation.
How do we pat them on their little heads?
To concerns about a third world war.
If you think that we will get into a crisis like that.
And one had more to say than others.
So most of the things they say, it is true, but some perspectives they jump in.
However, for an audience member with family there, it hit home.
I'm a little shaken up today.
And with all the differing discussions, Dr. Jockish was happy with the turnout.
I think maybe that might be an indication that there's some public awareness.
And as Ukraine continues its battle, locals here say they're with Ukraine.
Your freedom that is at stake as well as the Ukrainians. So get up there and kick some butt.
A U-Toledo law student from Ukraine is leading an on-campus demonstration to support her home country. It starts at 5:30 tonight, Thursday the 3rd. She asks people to make signs to show their support. The march begins at the Thompson Student Union Auditorium and ends at the Law Center. She's created a Facebook page with more information and other ways to help. We have a link to that on our website, ut10news.com. Campus administrators recognize these are tough times, especially for those with direct connections to Ukraine and Eastern Europe. They're reminding the U-Toledo community that mental health help is available through the Employee Assistance Program for faculty, staff, and their family. And through the University Counseling Center for Students, we have a link with more information on the center at ut10news.com as well.
When your driveway ice is over, what do you do?
Apply some de-icing salt.
Me too. But the question is, are we doing more harm than good? With the recent bad weather, you may have found yourself using more de-icing salt than usual. But U-Toledo researchers say we need to watch how much we use.
Use less salt on your sidewalk than what's needed.
This is because salt concentrations in our freshwater ecosystems are increasing.
What we see are precipitous declines in the zooplankton.
And zooplankton are responsible for water clarity.
When you lose these zooplankton, you can get higher algal concentrations in the water.
Some who like to walk around the parks and lakes aren't happy with the direction we're headed in when it comes to salt pollution.
I just feel like it's dangerous for all the wildlife that's out here, the ducks. That's also not good for the fish and the people that like to fish and eat the fish.
When we lose those zooplankton, we lose that food resource that a lot of fish like to eat.
A reduction in zooplankton equals a reduction in fish. To help solve the problem of salt pollution,
we can apply what salt is needed. We need to apply the right amount for the weather event.
Another solution is brining, or applying liquid salt to roads before the storm hits. This prevents the ice from forming and reduces the amount of salt needed during or after the storm. Public de-icing operations are responsible for most of the salt pollution, but they can't take all the blame.
Private applicators have a significant role to play.
Some people don't live near any lakes or streams, but wonder if their salt use has an effect. And the answer is yes.
All streams, wetlands, and lakes, they have a watershed. What you salt 100 miles away will eventually end up in the lake, same as if you were a mile away.
Hintz says many freshwater ecosystems aren't polluted to the point where they're changing and losing too much zooplankton. But with the trajectory we're on, changes need to be made to prevent ecological damage. Now on to news across America. Trent.
Thanks, Tiara. First, more on the crisis in Ukraine. Putin shows no signs of settling down on Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The Associated Press reported Russia has now seized a key port city, Kherson. This is now the first major city to fall since the start of the war. Russia's 40-mile-long convoy stays stalled outside the center of Ukraine's capital city, Kyiv. And the UN Refugee Agency reported 1 million refugees have now fled Ukraine since last week. But Ukraine has shown no signs of giving up either, with international support continuing. The White House released a new pandemic plan that they say will help us fight COVID. With 215 million people fully vaccinated and 2/3 of eligible people having received one booster, the president says we're moving in the right direction. He's asked Congress to fund a new plan to provide what he calls life-saving pills, increase testing capacity, and provide more free masks. The goal is to keep businesses and schools open. And just like that, these came off. At least in some places on campus. On Tuesday, Rockets received a message that many of us have waited for years. President Postal said declines in hospitalizations and cases and updated guidance from the CDC are hopeful signs we've turned a corner in the fight against COVID. So the university scaled back mask requirements. Masks are not now only required in classrooms and labs, not in offices, recreational facilities, meeting rooms, and other common areas. Postal said he recognizes and respects some may choose to continue wearing a mask. And it's important to note the CDC's new mask guidelines do not apply to healthcare facilities. So masks are still required throughout the U Toledo Medical Center and in all university clinics and pharmacies. Students we spoke to were relieved.
Be able to lift it a little bit is definitely exciting, especially because it's my last semester here. So
I feel like it's fair as long as, students get a break within like hangout spots and stuff.
I think I can understand why people could be concerned, but it's nice to kind of get back to normal, and it's weird to actually see people's faces in class and other things.
Hopefully the lifting the masks means that we're transitioning to a more safer community, and hopefully it will mean more normalization in the community and on campus and in the classrooms, and hopefully just means that moving forward it's going to continue to get better.
You may have seen him before. He's reported on all kinds of topics from within the community to around the world.
And at the ripe age of just 14 years old, Jaden Jefferson has impacted many with his impressive journalism skills. I was able to speak with the Toledo native, getting to know more about him.
Jefferson. I'm Jaden Jefferson. I'm Jaden Jefferson here. Jaden Jefferson in Jaden Jefferson. I'm Jaden Jefferson, and welcome to Toledo News this morning.
If you didn't know, that's Jaden Jefferson. And he's not just your average 8th grader. His passion and talents for multimedia journalism have led him to interview some big names. And now it was my turn to interview him.
Great day. So I think the unpredictability of it is one of the things that keeps me in this. But on top of that, I enjoy the writing, the editing, and the shooting of video.
But it was one event in particular that really boosted his inspiration.
I think the Mercy Health nurse strike a couple years ago, well, a few years ago from right now, I think that was a major news event that was getting a lot of coverage. A lot of people were in tune with it and following it closely.
And with all that was happening in the world, it made him think even more.
Made me think, well, I need to stay in this because I know more is coming.
And while putting a major focus into journalism, he still learns to balance it all while being a full-time student here as well.
These are long days. And then, of course, I spend the whole day in school, but any break I get that I can, get something done and work on a story, I take advantage of it.
While he produces his content by himself, he is not alone thanks to his family.
They're always elated, when I'm able to say, oh, I did this today, I did that today. They enjoy that.
For Jefferson, his work is far from over, and the possibilities for him remain endless.
For what's next, I already know what's next, but it's still under wraps for now, so I look forward to being able to tell people what it is. They're going to be excited.
To see more of Jefferson, visit the link on our website, ut10news.com. It's time now for sports.
I'm Caleb Gill, and this is your UT10 Sports Report. We have more on a story we brought you last week, but first, the men's Rockets basketball team went into last Saturday's matchup against Miami University, hoping to make it 17 straight wins against the Red Hawks. The Rockets came out the gates hot, but they would begin to struggle offensively. In the meantime, Miami would begin to catch fire, giving the Red Hawks a 14-9 lead early. The visiting team would continue to take advantage of Toledo's struggles, and plays like these did not help the Rockets' efforts. A three-pointer from Miami senior guard Mekhi Larry helped to give the Red Hawks their largest lead of the half, with an 11-point lead at 5 minutes left before the intermission. Toledo wouldn't quit though, pushing through to make a comeback, and a layup from junior forward JT Shoemate that you'll see here in a second helped the Rockets regain the lead with a minute and a half left. This before Red Hawks sophomore forward Kamari Williams splashed one in from downtown to give the lead back to Miami. A Seth Milner three with 32 seconds left, though, gave the Rockets a 40-39 lead into the break. Red Hawks came out looking tired to start the second half, and the Rockets, well, they capitalized, getting out to an early 7-point lead to start the half, and they would not look back. The second half would pretty much be all Toledo, except Red Hawks did get a few plays like that in there. At the halfway mark in the second, Toledo led 60-46, and that still wouldn't be enough for them, leading by as much as 19 points. Rockets won by a final score of 88-73 after almost everything just seemed to work for them in the second half. This win helped them to inch closer to securing the first seed in the MAC. Toledo sophomore guard Ryan Rollins helped to make his case for MAC Player of the Year, scoring 24 points while also snagging 8 rebounds in the game. Both men's and women's Rockets teams will finish their regular seasons at home this weekend, with the men playing Bowling Green in the Battle of I-75 tomorrow, and the women playing on Saturday against Western Michigan. The two squads will then go into Cleveland next week for the MAC tournament, where both teams hope to cut down the net and come home with a MAC championship. Last week, we brought you the news that the University of Toledo has hired someone to lead the future of Rocket athletics. Almost directly after last week's show, the university held a press conference introducing Brian Blair as the next leader of the athletic department. After holding the position for 20 years, Michael Bryan is retiring as the athletic director of the University of Toledo in the spring. In his place, and making the trip from Washington to Ohio, Brian Blair was introduced to the Rocket community last Thursday, where he will serve as Vice President and Director of Athletics. Blair may have a law degree from the University of South Carolina, but he still experienced college athletics while in college, having been a team captain for the Wofford College football team. The new athletic director hopes to apply some of those lessons he learned while playing college football to his new position.
I want to run beside every one of my teammates and push us to be more than we even think is possible. I want to get the absolute most of our athletic department, this university, and this city pulling in one direction to make the unimaginable possible.
For someone who appears to have all the accolades to be an athletic director, why did Brian Blair choose Toledo?
In Toledo, I found an athletic department achieving at a high rate and filled with talented people who want to do more. In Toledo, I found a president and a campus that believe in the power of sport. In Toledo, I found a thriving city where I can raise my kids. In Toledo, I found my perfect fit.
He does not start until May 1st, but he still laid out his vision for when he does assume the role.
My vision at a high level is to go from good to great. I want to see this athletic department has done so much from an academic standpoint, from an athletic standpoint, from a community standpoint, take that next step in its evolution.
Blair wants UT to be seen as a premier athletic department out of the group of 5 schools, and believes that it's going to take teamwork to figure out what that little bit that is needed to get over the hump is. For UT 10 Sports, I'm Caleb Gill. That's it for sports. Back to you, Trent TR.
Thank you, Caleb. That's it for UT 10 News.
We'll see you in 2 weeks as we're on spring break. Good show.